I sit at the dining table, my fingers tracing the edge of the crystal water glass that matches all the others perfectly arranged around my parents' mahogany table. Parker's graduation celebration has turned our suburban Chicago home into a showcase, white roses spilling from Mom's best vases, the good china gleaming under chandelier light, Dad's imported scotch making the rounds among his golf buddies. 23 years old and finished with college, the golden child complete. Dad rises from his chair at the head of the table, tapping his crystal glass with a silver spoon. The sharp ping silences the room. I glance at Mom, catch her looking away. Her hand flutters to adjust her pearl necklace, a nervous tell I've recognized since childhood. Everyone, if I could have your attention. Dad's voice carries that specific tone he reserves for business deals and important announcements. Today isn't just about celebrating Parker's graduation from Northwestern. Parker, across the table, straightens his shoulders beneath his tailored blazer. His smile holds the confident expectation of someone who's never had to wonder if good things are coming his way. "Catherine, bring it in." Dad calls, and his secretary appears from the hallway with a small wrapped box tied with a blue ribbon. Dad hands it to Parker with ceremonial solemnity. "Son, your mother and I couldn't be prouder of your accomplishment. 4 years, business degree, ready to join the family firm." Parker accepts the box, his expression pleasantly surprised but not shocked. He's been conditioned to expect rewards his entire life. "Open it," Mom urges, her voice bright with excitement. Parker tugs at the ribbon, lifts the lid, and removes a single key with a leather fob. His eyebrows lift. "That," Dad announces to the room, "is the key to Unit 1805 at the Waterstone, downtown, Riverview. We thought you deserved a proper place to start your professional life." The Waterstone, where 2-bedroom condos start at $450,000. The table erupts in applause and exclamations. Glasses raise. I maintain my smile, muscles tight in my cheeks. The same smile I wore when Parker got a car for his 16th birthday while I received driving lessons. The smile I perfected when he attended Northwestern on our parents' dime while I pieced together online classes between bookkeeping shifts. My water glass remains half full. I don't trust my hand not to shake. Hours later, guests filter out with final congratulations. I stack dessert plates in the kitchen, scraping uneaten cake into the garbage. Dad appears in the doorway, loosening his tie. "Sierra, we need to discuss your living situation." I place the plates carefully in the sink. My living situation? Now that Parker's settled, we're reevaluating household arrangements. He says this like he's discussing a business restructure. "Starting next month, we'll need you to contribute $1,200 for rent." The kitchen seems to tilt slightly. "Rent? You're 25, working 2 jobs. It's time you paid your fair share." Fair share. Last year, I contributed $15,000 to household expenses, groceries, utilities, property tax payments when their cash flow tightened. Not including the hours spent organizing their chaotic finances, preparing tax documents, making sense of Dad's scattered business receipts. "I see." My voice remains steady while something cracks inside my chest. "It's what adults do, Sierra. Pay their way." Behind him, Parker passes the doorway, new key twirling around his finger as he heads upstairs. This moment isn't unexpected. It's the culmination of a pattern so familiar I should have anticipated it. Me working late nights on family bookkeeping while Parker went to parties. Dad dismissing my accounting certification progress as glorified bookkeeping while funding Parker's business degree. Mom telling her friend on the phone last month, voice hushed but not enough. Parker is our family's future. I place my hands flat on the counter. "May I ask why there's such a difference in how you're treating us?" Dad's expression shifts to impatience. "When you accomplish something like graduating college, we'll talk. I'm 3 credits away from completing my accounting degree." Silence stretches between us. Something flickers across his face, surprise, quickly masked. He didn't know, or didn't remember. "That's nice," he recovers. "But Parker finished at a real university, not some online program." I nod once, the movement controlled. "Thank you for clarifying." Later, in my childhood bedroom, I pull out my record book, 5 years of financial contributions meticulously documented, the evidence of my invisible work. Behind it on my bookshelf sits Grandma Clara's photo album. I remove it, turning to a photo of us at her lake house. Me at 12, her arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling at something just out of frame. I flip to the back of the album where she kept important notes. A small index card slips out, her elegant handwriting still clear. SB. Trust minus $250 K. My hands grow still. SB Sierra Bennett. I reach for my phone and text Aunt Susan. I need to talk about Grandma Clara's trust. The text sends with a small swoosh sound, like something being set free. The next day, the vinyl booth at Cassidy's diner squeaks beneath me as I shift my weight. 30 miles from home, this faded roadside establishment with its perpetual smell of bacon grease serves a purpose beyond its mediocre coffee. Nobody from my parents' social circle would be caught dead here. Aunt Susan slides into the booth opposite me, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a loose bun. Dark circles beneath her eyes betray a sleepless night. She clutches her purse against her chest like armor. "You look just like Clara," she says softly, studying my face. "She'd be so proud of the woman you've become." The waitress deposits 2 mugs of coffee on the table. I wrap my hands around mine, seeking warmth rather than caffeine. "Thank you for meeting me," I say. "I found something in Grandma's photo album." Susan nods, lips pressed tight. Her fingers drum against her purse, a nervous rhythm. "I've been waiting for this conversation for 3 years." The statement hangs between us, confirmation of something I hadn't fully allowed myself to believe until now. My stomach tightens. Susan reaches into her purse and pulls out a manila folder worn at the edges. She hesitates, then slides it across the table. "Clara established this trust when you were 16, she says. $250,000 for your education and future. I was the witness, but Robert had power of attorney after her stroke." I open the folder with steady hands, though my heart hammers against my ribs. The document on top bears the letterhead of Jameson Financial Trust. My name in bold type, Sierra Elizabeth Bennett Educational Trust. "He took it," I say, the words flat rather than questioning. Susan's eyes fill with tears. I suspected, but I didn't want to believe my own brother capable of this. I flip through bank statements, each page a fresh revelation. Systematic withdrawals beginning in 2018 and accelerating through 2020. The timing aligns perfectly with Parker's college tuition payments. Northwestern University's name appears repeatedly in the transaction details. "Grandma specifically set this up for you," Susan says. "She worried about how Robert favored Parker. She wanted to ensure you had educational opportunities regardless of your parents' choices." My fingers stop at a transfer authorization form. At the bottom, my signature. Except I never signed it. "This isn't my signature," I say, voice tight. Susan reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. "I know." The diner seems to recede around me as I stare at the forgery. Not just fraud, but betrayal on the most personal level. Someone studied my handwriting, practiced it, perfected it enough to fool bank officials. "When did these transfers happen?" I ask, flipping back to the largest withdrawals. Susan hesitates. "The main transfers were in April of your senior year." April 2018. The month I spent 3 days in the hospital after collapsing from exhaustion. 3 days I barely remember through the haze of sedatives and sleep. A memory surfaces. Dad bringing paperwork from school to my hospital bed. Me signing without reading, trust implicit despite our differences. My teenage belief that despite everything, certain lines wouldn't be crossed. "They used my hospitalization," I say. The words taste like metal. Susan nods. "Robert told me you had agreed to help Parker with his college expenses, that you'd signed the forms willingly." I continue through the documents, each page another piece of the puzzle. Who forged the later signatures? Susan looks down at her untouched coffee. "Parker has always been good at mimicking handwriting, since childhood." Something clicks into place. The caricatures Parker drew of teachers in high school, the forged excuse notes, the joke signatures he practiced. Skills encouraged and laughed at within our family. "This was never about me not being good enough," I say, the realization dawning like a cold sun. They knew exactly what they were doing. The drive home feels longer than 30 miles. I park in the driveway but remain in the car, scrolling through my phone to collect my thoughts. My mother's Instagram page appears in my feed. A photo from Parker's graduation party, everyone smiling beneath filtered perfection. The caption reads, "So proud of our perfect family, Parker's success and Sierra's uniqueness. Blessed mama, proud parents." Uniqueness. The word she uses when she can't find actual accomplishments to celebrate. I enter the house through the side door, voices carrying from my father's study. The door stands ajar, just enough for me to see my parents and Parker huddled around the desk. "The Anderson account should be your first priority," my father says to Parker. "It's the cornerstone of the family business. Eventually, all of this will be yours to manage." My mother's hand rests on Parker's shoulder. "You'll do wonderfully, sweetheart. You were born for this." Their vision of the future snaps into focus with crystal clarity. My contributions were expected, Parker's rewarded. My labor was obligation, his was preparation for inheritance. In my bedroom, I pull out my phone and dial a number I've had saved for years but never used. "Mark Delaney's office," answers a crisp voice. "This is Sierra Bennett," I say. "I need to speak with Mark about a trust fund established by my grandmother, Clara Bennett." 20 minutes later, I'm walking Mark through the documents, his face growing increasingly serious on my laptop screen. "Sierra, this isn't just unfair, it's illegal," he says finally. "Multiple counts of fraud, forgery, misappropriation of fiduciary funds. Your father could face serious consequences." I stare at the documents spread across my bed. "I don't want revenge. I want what's mine, and then peace." Mark nods. "I understand. We'll handle this with discretion, but firmly." When I return from the bathroom, a document lies centered on my bed. A rental agreement, my name typed neatly at the top. Monthly rate, $1,200. Clause 8B highlighted in yellow. Failure to make timely payments will result in immediate termination of residency. My mother appears in the doorway, fingers twisting her wedding ring. "Your father just wants you to learn responsibility," she says, voice soft but unconvincing. I look at her directly. "I've been responsible since I was 16. She opens her mouth, closes it again. No defense comes. The silence speaks volumes. Before dawn, I pack methodically. Essential documents, financial records, clothing, family photos showing Grandma Clara. I leave my childhood stuffed animals arranged on the bed, sentinels of a past I'm finally ready to leave behind. The attic yields one final discovery. Grandma Clara's journals, dusty but intact in a cedar chest. I flip through pages of elegant handwriting until a passage catches my eye. I worry about Robert's influence on the children, especially Sierra. He views her strength as competition rather than legacy. I must protect what I can. The first light of morning filters through my bedroom window as I place a handwritten letter on my perfectly made bed. 3 pages detailing every contribution I've made to this household. Every betrayal I've documented. Every truth I now understand. The front door closes behind me with a quiet click. No dramatic slam, no tearful goodbye, just the soft sound of one chapter ending and another beginning. The morning sun glints off Lake Michigan as I pull into Aunt Susan's gravel driveway. Her cottage-weathered cedar siding with white trim sits nestled among tall pines that whisper in the Michigan breeze. A world away from suburban Chicago. A world away from them. I cut the engine and sit for a moment, hands tight on the steering wheel. The 2-hour drive north gave me time to cycle through every emotion: rage, grief, betrayal, until I arrived at something steadier. Determination. Susan appears on the porch, wiping her hands on a faded apron, her silver-streaked hair caught in the wind. She waves, and something in her smile reminds me so much of Grandma Clara that my throat tightens. "You made it." She hurries down the steps, pulling me into a hug that smells of cinnamon and coffee. When she steps back, her eyes are bright with unshed tears. "Your grandmother bought this place for me, you know. She believed in taking care of family properly." The word properly hangs between you's very thing my parents' treatment wasn't. Inside, the cottage is all warm wood and worn comfort. A bay window overlooks the lake, catching morning light. Susan shows me to a small bedroom with twin beds covered in handmade quilts. "The other room has better light," she says. "I thought you might want it for studying." The second bedroom has been transformed. A desk faces the window with a view of water and sky. A lamp, extension cords, and office supplies wait in neat arrangements. I remember you mentioned needing 3 more credits, Susan says simply. Figured you'd want to keep going. My throat tightens again. Such a small kindness acknowledgement of my goals and yet so foreign. I set up my laptop, arrange my textbooks, create a makeshift office. While the files download, I stand at the window. The lake stretches blue and vast, a stark contrast to the churning inside me. 3 credits. Just 3 more credits before I have what they said I never would. That evening, my phone begins its predictable symphony. Mom. Sierra, please tell us where you are, we're worried sick. Mom. Your father isn't himself. Please come home so we can talk. Mom, at least tell me you're safe. I place the phone screen down on the table, but not before seeing Dad's email notification. Subject: Family Financial Documents. Sierra, return all financial records immediately. Your removal of these documents constitutes theft of family property. Susan watches me from her armchair, a book forgotten in her lap. They'll keep trying, she says softly. I nod, picking up my phone one last time. A text from Parker appears. Dad's furious. What did you take? Not where are you, not are you okay? Just concerned for what their father might have lost. I power off the phone completely. They're more worried about the documents than about me. Susan's mouth tightens. I'm not surprised. The next morning, Mark Delaney arrives. Aunt Susan's lawyer friend looks nothing like I expected. Weathered face, flannel shirt, more lumberjack than attorney. But his eyes are sharp as he reviews the trust documentation spread across Susan's kitchen table. Your grandmother was thorough, he says, tapping a clause with his index finger. Robert had fiduciary responsibility. Using these funds for Parker's education was a clear breach. I push forward another document. He forged my signature here and here. Mark nods, making notes. We'll start with a formal letter. Give them a chance to make this right. They won't, I say, certainty cold in my stomach. No, probably not, Mark agrees, but the court will want to see we tried. Later, while scanning bank records, I discover something that stops my breath. The down payment for Parker's conduit came directly from the trust. Mark takes the statement, whistles low, not even attempting to hide it by that point. The certified letter goes out the next day. I picture it arriving at their perfect house, my father's face as he signs for it, the bomb of legal language detonating in their carefully constructed world. Life at the cottage falls into rhythm. Morning classes online, afternoons helping Susan with her garden, evenings reviewing for my final accounting exam. The lake becomes my constant, sometimes glass still, sometimes storm-tossed, always there. 2 weeks after arriving, I submit my final exam. The screen flashes my score immediately, 97%. Susan insists on celebrating. She brings out a bottle of champagne and 2 flutes that belong to Grandma Clara. To your persistence, she toasts. I clink my glass against hers, a bittersweet ache blooming beneath my ribs. I always thought they'd be here for this moment. The next day, a thick envelope arrives with my accounting degree certificate inside. Seeing my name in formal script, Sierra Elizabeth Bennett strikes me as both victory and indictment. I've done what they said I couldn't, without what they owed me. The celebration is short-lived. Mark calls with news. Your father's attorney responded. They're denying everything. His voice tightens. Sierra, they've included your hospitalization records as evidence you're mentally unstable and financially irresponsible. The medical records from senior year exhaustion, dehydration, anxiety twisted into a weapon. A particularly brutal chill settles in my chest. There's more, Mark continues. Parker submitted an affidavit claiming you verbally gifted him your inheritance. A laugh escapes me, brittle and sharp. Of course he did. That evening, my mother calls Susan's landline. I sit at the kitchen table watching Susan's face change as she listens. She's here. She's safe, Susan says firmly. Elaine, I think. She stops, listening, then holds out the phone to me, eyebrows raised in question. I take it, press it to my ear. Sierra? My mother's voice breaks. Why are you doing this to our family? The familiar guilt rises then recedes just as quickly. Family. as if that word still means what it once did. I'm not doing anything to our family, I say evenly. I'm simply claiming what's mine. The next day brings unexpected support. Clara's former financial advisor, Michael Winters, contacts Mark. I've been retired 5 years. He explains on the conference call, but I kept copies of everything. Your grandmother was explicit, Sierra. That money was for you. Robert assured me he would honor her wishes. More evidence accumulates. A paper trail so clear even Mark grows confident. This isn't just improper, it's clear-cut fraud, he says, scheduling preliminary hearings. We need to prepare for court. I imagine facing them across a courtroom, my father's cold stare, my mother's tears, Parker's confusion. I need to be present, I tell Mark. I need to look them in the eyes. That evening, searching through Grandma Clara's old Bible that Susan keeps on her bookshelf, a sealed envelope falls out, my name written in Clara's elegant hand. Inside, yellowed stationery holds her final message. My dear Sierra, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. I've always seen Robert's favoritism toward Parker, even when Elaine couldn't. I fear what this might mean for you once I'm gone. The trust I've established is meant for your independence, your education, your future. $250,000 might seem extravagant to some, but I've watched you work twice as hard for half the recognition your brother receives. This money isn't charity, it's justice. You have always been the strong one, the one who sees clearly. That strength will carry you forward when the truth emerges. Remember that your worth isn't measured by their recognition of it. All my love, Grandma Clara. The letter trembles in my hands. She knew. She had always known and tried to protect me from beyond the grave. I fold the letter carefully, place it back in its envelope. Standing at the window, watching twilight settle over the lake, I make a silent promise to the grandmother who saw me when no one else did. I will reclaim what's mine with the quiet dignity she taught me, not for revenge but for justice, not with drama but with truth. The water darkens to indigo as the last light fades. Tomorrow we prepare for court. I arrive at the courthouse an hour early the next day. The marble floors gleam under fluorescent lights, echoing with each step of my sensible black heels. Mark walks beside me, briefcase in hand, his presence steady and reassuring. You ready for this? He asks, voice low. I nod once. Been ready for years, just didn't know it. We settle in the hallway outside courtroom B. I straighten my charcoal blazer, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from my skirt. Every document is organized in labeled folders. Every statement rehearsed in my mind during sleepless nights at Aunt Susan's cottage. The main doors swing open. Dad strides in first, his attorney flanking his right side. His silver hair is freshly cut, his suit expensively tailored, but his complexion has a grayish undertone I've never seen before. His eyes lock onto mine across the corridor, hard and cold as January ice on Lake Michigan. I hold his gaze without flinching, something I couldn't have done 6 months ago. Mom enters behind him, fingers twisting her pearl necklace. Her eyes are rimmed with red, makeup carefully applied to hide what sleepless nights can't conceal. When she spots me, her steps falter. Parker trails behind them both, studying the floor tiles. His shoulders hunch forward inside his navy suit. He looks smaller somehow. Mark touches my elbow. They're scared, he whispers. Remember that. Mom breaks away from Dad, approaching with outstretched hands. Sierra, please, we can still be a family. I take a half step back. We are family, Mom. That's why this hurts so much. Her face crumples. Before she can respond, the bailiff calls our case number. Inside the courtroom, I sit ramrod straight beside Mark while Dad's attorney presents their opening statement, painting me as an ungrateful daughter who misunderstood normal family financial planning. The judge, a woman in her 60s with shrewd eyes behind rimless glasses, listens without expression. Mark rises when our turn comes. His voice carries through the room as he lays out each document: bank transfers coinciding with Parker's tuition payments, withdrawal slips with my forged signature, Grandma Clara's explicit trust instructions, and Dad's systematic violations as trustee. Your Honor, this isn't merely poor financial management. Mark concludes. This is deliberate fraud perpetrated against Miss Bennett at a time when she was hospitalized and unable to protect her interests. The judge's eyes narrow as she examines the signature comparisons. Her gaze lifts to Dad, who shifts in his seat. When called to testify, I approach the stand with steady steps. The oath feels heavy on my lips. Miss Bennett, Mark begins, please explain your financial contributions to your family household. I recall the exact figures, $15,387 last year alone. I describe working 2 jobs while taking online classes. I detail discovering Grandma Clara's trust only after Parker received his graduation condo. Dad's attorney attempts to rattle me during cross-examination. Isn't it true your parents provided housing, food, and support your entire life? Yes, I answer. And I provided over $40,000 in financial assistance and hundreds of hours of unpaid bookkeeping services for their business since I was 18. When Dad takes the stand, his composure slips under the judge's direct questioning about the signatures. These were family funds, he snaps. I made decisions as head of the household. Mr. Bennett, the judge says, removing her glasses, a trust isn't a household decision, it's a legal obligation. This appears to be a deliberate breach of fiduciary duty. Dad's face flushes crimson. My daughter has always been difficult. That's enough, the judge cuts in. We'll take a 20-minute recess. In the hallway, Dad's attorney corners Mark with a manila folder. I stand close enough to hear the offer, $125,000 to settle, half of what was stolen. Tell her to take it, Dad's attorney mutters. Family disputes get ugly. Mark glances at me. I shake my head once. The offer climbs to $175,000 before recess ends. They're scared now, Mark says. They know how this looks. I want what was meant for me, I tell him. Not a penny less. Mom finds me near the water fountain, eyes swimming with tears. I knew it wasn't right, she whispers. But I didn't stop it. I just wanted peace. I really look at her perhaps for the first time. The woman who taught me watercolors on Sunday afternoons, who never raised her voice, who never stood up for me either. This isn't about punishment, Mom, it's about justice. Sometimes peace costs too much. When court resumes, the judge delivers her ruling with clipped precision. Full restoration of the trust fund plus legal fees. Additional penalties for fraudulent misappropriation. A formal accounting of all trust assets within 30 days. Furthermore, she adds, looking directly at Dad, I'm referring this matter to the State Bar Association given Mr. Bennett's legal license and position of trust. Outside the court later, reporters cluster on the courthouse steps. I decline their shouted questions with a polite headshake. Dad brushes past me, fury radiating from his rigid spine as he pushes through the crowd. Parker hangs back, hands jammed in his pockets. Sierra, his voice cracks. I didn't understand what we were doing. I pause, studying my brother's face, the boy who got everything I didn't, who never questioned why. Understanding requires wanting to see the truth, I tell him quietly. Then I walk down the steps alone, toward the car where Aunt Susan waits, toward whatever comes next. The spring air feels clean in my lungs. For the first time in years, I breathe all the way down to my stomach. In weeks to come, the news travels fast in our suburban Chicago circles. I learn about Dad's professional fallout from Aunt Susan, not because I seek the information, but because it arrives with my morning coffee at her kitchen table. Robert's been asked to step down from the Community Foundation Board, Susan says, sliding the local business journal across the table. His name appears in a small article on page 3. The Chamber of Commerce is next, from what I hear. I push the journal aside without reading further. I'm not collecting trophies from his downfall. No one would blame you if you took some satisfaction in it. I've got balance sheets to review for my first real client. I tap my laptop. That's more satisfying than watching him lose face. Susan studies me over her reading glasses, then nods once. The quiet approval in her expression means more than she knows. My phone buzzes with a text. Mom's name appears on the screen, still listed as Mother rather than Elaine, a small resistance to complete detachment I haven't yet overcome. Can we meet for coffee tomorrow? Just us. 3 months since the court ruling, and this is her 5th request. I've declined the previous 4. My finger hovers over the screen before typing. Perkins Cafe, 10 a.m. Susan notices my expression. Elaine? I nod. She wants to meet. And you're going this time. Not a question. Time to hear what she has to say. I close my laptop. Judge her actions now, not just her past failures. The following morning, Mom sits at a corner table in Perkins, looking smaller somehow. Her pearl necklace is absent, replaced by a simple silver pendant. Her hands wrap around her mug as if seeking warmth despite the June heat outside. "Thank you for coming," she says when I slide into the seat across from her. Her voice catches. "I've left your father." The statement hangs between us. I wait for more, taking a measured sip of the coffee I've ordered. "I rented an apartment near the community college." She straightens slightly. "I'm teaching children's art classes there. Part-time, but it's a start." A start toward what? Toward being someone I'm not ashamed to face in the mirror. Her eyes meet mine directly, something she rarely did during family confrontations. "I enabled something terrible, Sierra. I can't continue pretending our family was what I wanted people to believe it was." I study her face, looking for the performative grief she's perfected at country club functions. Instead, I find something raw and unfamiliar authenticity. "We have a long way to go," I tell her finally. Not forgiveness, not yet, but an acknowledgement that doors aren't permanently closed. My phone pings with a notification. A text from Parker, his first communication since the hearing. "I'm moving to Colorado. I need a fresh start. The condo's on the market. You'll get the proceeds through Mark. I never thought about how unfair it all was. I'm sorry." I read it twice before responding. "Growth begins with honesty. I hope you find yours." Simple words that cost me nothing but mean everything. I've stopped measuring my responses by how much pain they might cause others and started measuring them by their truth. A week later, I sign papers on a small craftsman house 3 blocks from Lake Michigan. Nothing extravagant, 2 bedrooms, a front porch with a swing, and windows that flood the rooms with morning light. The real estate agent hands me the keys with congratulations on my starter home. "It's not a starter," I correct her. "It's exactly what I want." My accounting practice grows steadily, 3 clients, then 5, then 12. Word spreads about the young accountant who notices discrepancies others miss, who explains complex tax issues in straightforward language. My grandmother's trust money sits mostly untouched in investments, a safety net I maintain but don't depend on. "You've built something real here," Mark observes during our quarterly review meetings. "Most people who experience what you did would still be licking their wounds." "Wounds heal faster when you stop picking at them," I reply, showing him my business projections for the coming year. The email arrives on a Thursday evening as I'm reviewing client files. From Denise Harrington, a name from elementary school, someone I shared lunch tables with until our paths diverged in high school. "Sierra, I heard about everything that happened with your family. I'm back in the area after a divorce and could use a friendly face from simpler times. Coffee sometime?" Old Sierra would have questioned the timing, wondered if this was curiosity disguised as connection. New Sierra simply responds, "I'd like that. How's Saturday?" Our coffee meeting on Sunday turns into brunch, then a walk along the lakeshore. Denise's laughter comes easily, her questions genuine. She doesn't dance around what happened, acknowledges it, then moves forward. By fall, we have a standing Sunday morning hiking date, weather permitting. "Family isn't always blood," she says as we watch sunset colors play across the water. "Sometimes it's who sees you clearly and stays anyway." On Clara's birthday, I visit her grave with wildflowers gathered from my own garden. The cemetery is quiet, fallen leaves creating a copper carpet between the stones. I trace the letters of her name with my fingertip. "You saw what was coming," I whisper. "You tried to protect me even after you were gone." I place the flowers against her headstone with a small note tucked among the stems. "Thank you for seeing me." The wind lifts my hair as I stand, carrying the scent of autumn and possibility. Clara gave me more than money, she gave me the blueprint for a life built on integrity rather than appearance. Her legacy isn't just in my bank account, it's in every choice I make that honors truth over convenience. I drive home as sunset fades to twilight, to a house that's entirely mine, filled with only the things and people I choose to welcome. At the present, I stand on my porch, watching the sunset paint Lake Michigan in strokes of amber and gold. 1 year, 365 days since I walked away from my parents' mahogany dining table and the life built on pretense. The lake breeze carries the scent of spring blossoms from my small garden. I've planted everything myself, perennials that return stronger each season. The metaphor isn't lost on me. My accounting practice occupies the renovated sunroom of this modest lakeside cottage. 4 walls of windows where light pours in and spreadsheets make perfect sense. 27 clients now, Mostly small businesses tired of being overlooked by larger firms. People who appreciate precision and honesty. Sierra, you've got to try this. Hannah holds out a glass of something fizzy and pink. My latest creation. I accept the drink from my friend, a word that means something entirely different now. Friends aren't people who tolerate you at family functions. They're the ones who show up on moving day with boxes and takeout. Who texts to check if you need anything when you're working late? My modest living room holds 6 people tonight, gathered around a homemade cake with 27 candles. No crystal glasses or imported scotch. Just genuine laughter that doesn't require maintaining appearances. To Sierra, says Marcus, my first client who became a friend, raising his glass. Who proves that the best revenge is building something beautiful. I shake my head. Not revenge, just peace. Later, after my friends have gone, the phone rings. Mom's number. Our relationship exists now in careful coffee meetings every few weeks. Her art classes keep her busy, her voice stronger with each conversation. Happy birthday, Sierra. No theatrics in her tone, just quiet sincerity. I thought about you all day. Thank you. I settle into my porch swing. How's the watercolor class going? My students are showing real progress. A pause. I'm teaching them to paint what they see, not what they think should be there. The irony hangs between us. We both hear it. That's a valuable lesson, I say finally. Yes. Another pause. Parker called yesterday. He's interviewing for an assistant manager position at a sporting goods store in Denver. No family business. No condo. Just finding his way on his own terms. I hope it works out for him. He asked for your number. I said I'd check with you first. Growth comes in small steps. You can give it to him. After we hang up, I retrieve Grandma Clara's journals from my bookshelf. They've become a roadmap through my own history. Her elegant handwriting chronicles 3 generations of Bennett family patterns, the favoritism shown to sons, the daughters expected to accommodate and support without recognition. The cycle ends with you, she wrote in her final entry, as if she knew I would someday read it. Last week I met with Zoe, a 22-year-old starting her own graphic design business. She brought messy finances and dreams too big for her 1-bedroom apartment. Everyone says I should get a real job first, she told me, uncertainty creasing her forehead. Build something that reflects your values, not others' expectations, I replied, surprised by the certainty in my voice. The foundation matters more than how quickly the walls go up. The Christmas card from Dad remains unopened in my desk drawer. Some bridges stay burned by choice, not accident. From my porch, I can see the entirety of my rebuilt life, the garden I planted, the office where I work, the kitchen where I cook meals that nourish rather than impress. Everything chosen, nothing inherited except Clara's watch on my wrist and her wisdom in my decisions. The greatest inheritance wasn't the trust fund that secured my freedom, though I remain grateful for Clara's foresight. It was the courage she modeled, the willingness to recognize when walking away creates more value than staying. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting for your place at a table set by someone else. It's building your own table, measuring the wood yourself, and inviting people who see you clearly to sit there. The coffee slips from my fingers, splashing across the mortgage documents. Dark liquid seeps into the crisp white paper, blooming like bruises across the numbers $278,000 in bold black ink that doesn't wash away. Elena, honestly. Mom's voice cuts through my stunned silence. She snatches a napkin from the table centerpiece, dabbing at the mess I've made. This is important paperwork. I can't tear my eyes from the mortgage packet. My parents' names crossed out in blue ballpoint and mine penciled in above them. The dining room suddenly feels airless, the walls of my childhood home pressing inward. You emptied your retirement accounts? My voice doesn't sound like my own. For Lena's down payment? Dad clears his throat. It was the right thing to do. She needs stability for the boys. Across the table, my sister Lena studies her manicure, refusing to meet my eyes. The boys she's referring to, my nephews, are spending the weekend with their father, conveniently absent from what Mom had called our wonderful news family gathering. And now you want me to take over the mortgage payments? The words taste sour in my mouth. It's not want, Elena. Mom says, her tone sliding into the one she's used since I was small when I was being difficult. It's what families do. You're the only one with the financial stability to help. 3 days ago, Mom called me bubbling with excitement about good news she couldn't wait to share. Just a week after I'd helped Lena with her rent. Again. While I scraped and saved for 12 years toward my own home, Lena collected praise for her traditional life choices, marriage at 22, babies by 25. Even her divorce somehow earned her more sympathy than my promotions earned me. Congratulations. I paid her legal fees through that divorce. I watch the boys every other weekend so she can have a life. I've never complained. Until now. Number. The word hangs between us, simple and final. What do you mean, no? Dad's bushy eyebrows draw together. I mean, I've been saving for my own home for 12 years. My hands stop trembling as I place them flat on the table. I'm not taking on Lena's mortgage. Mom's lips press into a thin line. But Lena needs it more. She has the boys to think about. And I have my life to think about. I stand, gathering my purse from the back of the chair. The dining room suddenly feels like quicksand, every childhood memory trying to pull me under. Elena Catherine Whitaker. Mom uses my full name, a warning shot across the bow. After everything we've done for you, after everything I've done for this family, I cut in, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. I've helped with rent, bills, childcare. I paid Lena's divorce attorney. That was your choice, Dad says, his face reddening. No one forced you. Just like it's my choice now. I slide the coffee-stained mortgage papers back across the table. I'm not signing these. Mom's expression hardens. If you walk out that door, you're turning your back on this family. The weight of her words should crush me. They always have before. But something has shifted, like tectonic plates realigning beneath my feet. I realize with startling clarity that my relationship with my family has always hinged on financial compliance. Every holiday, every birthday call, every just checking in has come with an invisible price tag. I've never turned my back on this family. I sling my purse over my shoulder. But I won't mortgage my future because you decided to gamble with yours. The silence that follows me to the door speaks volumes. Years of generous support money transfers, babysitting weekends, emergency loans, all unnoticed, unappreciated, all expected. The spring air hits my face as I step outside, and I take my first full breath since arriving. For once, I'm not leaving with a list of Lena's needs or my parents' expectations weighing me down. Just the lightness of finally saying no, and the certainty that the real battle has only begun. This is the beginning of my journey, and I will not allow anyone to bring me down. As I was still sitting in the car, my fingers trembled as I stared at my phone, the text messages swimming before my eyes. The car interior suddenly feels too small, the seatbelt a vice across my chest. Mom, Elena will never notice if we list her as guarantor. Her credit score is perfect. Lena, what if she checks? She's always looking at her credit report. Dad, by the time she finds out, the house will be ours. She'll feel too guilty to back out then. The timestamp on these messages dates back 3 months. 3 months of planning while I continued depositing money into Lena's account for emergency groceries. I roll down the window, gulping for air that won't come. My vision blurs as I pull over onto the shoulder of the highway, hazard lights blinking weakly against the afternoon Sunday. Not only had they planned to ambush me with the mortgage papers, but they'd already listed me as guarantor without my consent. The betrayal cuts deeper than I'd imagined possible from the people who raised me to value honesty above all else. My phone buzzes with a new message from Mom. Family dinner Saturday. Everyone wants to celebrate Lena's new home. Everyone. The entire extended family. When Saturday arrives, I consider not showing up, but some foolish part of me still hopes for understanding. That hope dies the moment I walk into my parents' dining room. The table arrangement tells me everything I need to know. My parents, Lena, Aunt Carol, Uncle Rick, and cousins Mike and Stephanie sit clustered together on one side. A single-place setting waits for me on the opposite side. There she is. Aunt Carol's voice carries forced cheer as I take my seat. The successful career woman. Mom passes the potatoes with a tight smile. Elena was just telling us yesterday how she's been saving for her own house. Well, family comes first, Uncle Rick says, spooning gravy onto his plate without looking at me. Always thought that was something your parents taught you girls. They did, I say carefully. That's why I've helped Lena with rent for the past year. Lena stares at her plate. Not everyone can be as perfect as you, Elena. No one's saying perfect, Cousin Stephanie chimes in. Just not selfish. The word hangs in the air between us. Selfish. The boys are so excited about their new forever home. Aunt Carol says, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. Lena showed them pictures yesterday. They've already picked their rooms. My heart sinks. You told them already? Lena's eyes flashed defensively. They needed something positive after everything they've been through with the divorce. Speaking of the boys, Mike says, swirling his wine, they've been asking when they get to see Aunt Elena again. The threat isn't subtle. My access to my nephews watching them grow, being their safe place during the divorce, dangles before me like bait. Dad clears his throat. We're all just concerned about what's best for the boys. I'm surprised you're being so difficult about this, Stephanie adds. It's not like you need your savings. No husband, no kids. My phone buzzes in my lap. A text from cousin Mike sitting across from me. We've all been talking about this in the family group chat, the one you're not in. As dinner progresses, my phone fills with messages. Aunt Carol tags me in a Facebook post about supporting family in need. Uncle Rick's wife texts asking if I'll contribute to Lena's housewarming gift. My grandmother, who hasn't called me in months, leaves a voicemail asking why I'm abandoning Lena and the boys. By the time I make it home, I've received 37 messages from family members, each one chipping away at my resolve. Maybe I am being selfish. Maybe my desire for financial independence is trivial compared to my nephew's stability. I call Ivy, my closest friend and an attorney, desperate for perspective. They listed you as guarantor without consent? Her voice sharpens. Elena, that's fraud. But morally nothing. You have zero legal obligation here. And frankly, using the boys as emotional blackmail is disgusting. Her words are a small life raft in the ocean of guilt I'm drowning in. For a moment I can breathe again, but as my phone continues buzzing with family messages, I wonder if I'm fighting a losing battle. The vibration of each new text feels like another small betrayal. As the messages continued flooding my phone, I wondered if I should simply block everyone or try to explain my position one more time. Would shutting them out provide the peace I needed? Or would one more attempt at reason help them understand my perspective? I stare at the screen, my finger hovering over the block button, knowing whatever I choose next will permanently alter my family relationships forever. Yet I am ready to stand for myself and face everything that comes next. 3 days later, the cashier at Peterson's Market avoids my eyes, sliding my change across the counter instead of placing it in my outstretched palm. 3 people behind me in line whisper, their voices carrying just enough for me to catch fragments. That's her, the one who abandoned her own sister's children, after everything her parents did. My cheeks burn as I gather my groceries. This is the 4th such encounter this week. Portland suddenly feels like a small town where gossip travels at light speed rather than the city I've called home for 12 years. Mrs. Gunderson, my parents' neighbor for 20 years, blocks the exit with her cart. You know, dear, she says, not bothering to lower her voice. Family is all we have in the end. I grip my paper bag tighter. Thank you for the wisdom, Mrs. Gunderson. Outside in the parking lot, my phone buzzes. A Facebook notification. Mom has posted again, her 3rd thinly veiled status update this week. Heartbroken when someone you raised with nothing but love turns selfish when you need them most. Prayers for all parents disappointed by ungrateful children. 37 comments. 14 shares. The paper bag tears slightly as I shove it into my trunk. Back home, I'm sorting mail when my fingers freeze on an envelope from Portland First National. Inside, a statement for an account I haven't used since college, the savings account my parents opened when I was 16, with both our names attached. The balance reads $42.17. Last month it was $4,237.64. My stomach drops as I scan the withdrawal information. A cashier's check issued 3 days after our confrontation over Lena's mortgage, signed by Curtis Whitaker, my father. I sink to the floor, statement clutched against my chest. My phone rings. Lena's number. The 3rd call today. When it stops, a voicemail notification appears, joining 5 others I haven't had the courage to listen to. The anxiety builds each time the phone rings, each time the mail arrives. I've developed a Pavlovian response: instant nausea when my phone chimes, immediate tension headaches when I check my mailbox. After 3 deep breaths, I reach for my laptop. Opening a new spreadsheet, I title it Family Financial Support. In the first column, I enter dates. In the second, dollar amounts. In the third, brief descriptions. April 2014, $2,300. Dad's medical bills after insurance denial. November 2014, $750. Mom's car repair. February 2015, $3,100. Lena's rent after separation. May 2015, $8,200. Lena's divorce attorney. The list grows, page after digital page. Not just the big expenses, Lena's legal fees, mom's car transmission, dad's uncovered medical treatments, but the small ones too. Groceries delivered when mom broke her ankle. Nephew's school supplies. Monthly transfers of $200 when the pension came up short. By midnight, the spreadsheet reveals a staggering truth: $73,428.65 over 9 years. Every penny documented through bank statements, Venmo transfers, and email receipts I never thought to track until now. The next morning, I call Portland First National and schedule an appointment. "I can see you at 3 today," Thomas says, the branch manager's voice warm with professional courtesy. "Bring your ID and any relevant account information." At 3 that day, I met him at his office. Thomas is older, perhaps 60, with kind eyes and a graying mustache. He listens without interruption as I explain the withdrawal from my dormant account. "Family financial pressure?" He nods, unsurprised. "I see it more than you'd think. Let's make sure you're protected." Within an hour, my banking profile is restructured. Joint accounts closed. New accounts opened with security questions my parents couldn't possibly answer. Password protections enhanced. "Thank you," I say, gathering the paperwork. "We all need someone in our corner sometimes," Thomas replies, his eyes crinkling at the corners. 3 days later, a sharp knock on my apartment door startles me. Through the peephole, I see my parents standing shoulder to shoulder, faces grim. I consider pretending I'm not home, but their car is visible in my assigned parking spot. Taking a steadying breath, I open the door without inviting them in. "Your accounts are frozen," Dad says immediately, dispensing with any greeting. "Not frozen, secured." I stand straight, blocking the entrance. "We raised you better than this," Dad continues, voice rising. "We gave you everything." The accusation hangs between us, so familiar it should sting, but something has shifted inside me. The spreadsheet's figures flash in my mind, concrete evidence of the truth. "And I've been giving back since I was 19? I reply, my voice steadier than I've ever heard it. "I've supported this family more than anyone. $73,428.65, to be exact." Mom's expression falters. "That's ridiculous." I have receipts for every penny. The words feel like keys unlocking something inside me. I'm not the selfish one in this equation. The realization crashes over me like a wave. All these years, I believed their narrative that I was the cold, career-focused daughter who needed to do more for family. But the spreadsheet tells a different story. I've been the family bank, the reliable safety net, the constant giver. After they leave stunned by my newfound resistance, I call Ivy. "Can you come over?" My voice cracks slightly. I could use some legal advice. Ivy arrives with takeout and a legal pad. Unlike my family, she listens as I speak, asking clarifying questions rather than dismissing my concerns. "I'll help you secure everything," she says, declining payment when I reach for my wallet. Friends don't charge friends for helping them stand their ground. Over the next week, with Ivy's guidance, I secure my finances, document the unauthorized withdrawal, and practice saying no without justification. My voice grows stronger with each boundary set. In the quiet evenings, I compile evidence of years of financial support to my family, organizing bank statements and receipts into a comprehensive record. During one late-night research session, I discover something unexpected: a Facebook conversation between my cousin Jordan and his wife about how my parents pulled the same financial manipulation with Jordan's brother 10 years ago. This isn't new behavior. It's a pattern. My phone pings with a text from Ivy. "Just got word through a colleague. Your parents are consulting with Markowitz and Sons about legal options." I'm about to reply when another notification appears, an email alert for certified mail requiring signature. The sender, Whitaker, Curtis, and Nancy. I set my phone down, a strange calm settling over me. Whatever comes next, I'm ready. I will not give up on protecting myself and everything I have from everyone, my family included. Next week, Thursday, after careful preparation and collecting documents, the courthouse steps stretch before me like a mountain to climb. Ivy's heels click rhythmically beside mine as we ascend, manila folders tucked under her arm containing 12 years of my financial history. "You ready?" she asks, her voice steady but gentle. I nod, swallowing hard. As ready as I'll ever be to face a lawsuit from my own parents. Inside, we find a small conference room where we spread our documents across the table. Ivy removes her glasses, polishing them with the edge of her blouse. Let's break down what they're claiming, she says, opening the lawsuit papers. $295,000 for reimbursement of your upbringing. My stomach twists as I scan the itemized list. They've included my college tuition that I paid myself with loans. I point to another line. And my high school soccer uniform costs? I worked weekends at the grocery store for those. Ivy marks each item with a yellow highlighter, creating a sunshine path through their falsehoods. We'll match these against your bank records. For the next hour, we methodically dismantle their claims. Ivy takes notes in her precise handwriting, occasionally nodding or frowning. I check each item against my records, years of statements I'd kept not out of suspicion but from the financial analyst's habit of documentation. Your parents weren't expecting you to have receipts going back this far, Ivy remarks, her eyes bright with something like pride. The pre-trial conference begins with Judge Harmon reviewing our materials. His eyebrows rise slightly as he flips through the pages, his expression increasingly skeptical. When he glances toward my parents and their attorney, his mouth tightens at one corner. A small victory, but I'll take it. The courtroom door swings open. Lena appears, hair perfectly styled, wearing a floral dress I recognize from our last family Easter. My heart lurches painfully, partly from surprise, partly from the familiar reflex of wanting to protect her despite everything. Your Honor, my parents' attorney says, Miss Whitaker's sister would like to speak. Judge Harmon gestures for her to approach. Lena walks forward, her eyes avoiding mine. Elena promised she would always help me, she says, voice trembling just enough. She knows how much the boys need stability. The judge adjusts his glasses. And has your sister helped you before? Lena hesitates. Yes. Could you elaborate? She shifts her weight. She's helped with rent a few times. How much financial support would you estimate your sister has provided? Lena glances at our parents, then back to the judge. Maybe a few thousand. Ivy slides a document forward. Financial records show Miss Whitaker has provided $18,732 in direct support to her sister over the past 3 years. Lena's cheeks flush. Judge Harmon reviews the document, then looks up. Miss Whitaker, Lena, that is, have you sought similar support from your children's father? Well, no, but... And why is that? Curtis and Nancy said Elena could handle it. The judge writes something on his notepad. I see. When Ivy suggests we countersue for the money I'd given my family over the years, I hesitate. Should I simply defend myself against their claims? Or was it time to demand recognition for everything I'd sacrificed for them? Ivy stands, her voice calm and clear as she presents our evidence. Elena has been financially independent since age 19. These bank statements show regular transfers to her parents when, in their words, Curtis's pension came up short. She displays emails on the projector screen, please, for just a little help this month, dating back years, each matched with a corresponding transfer from my account. What we see, Ivy continues, is that Elena has been the primary giver in this relationship, not the recipient. Mom stares straight ahead, her spine rigid. Dad examines his hands folded in his lap. Do you have any evidence, Judge Harmon asks my parents' attorney, that Miss Whitaker agreed to take on her sister's mortgage? We have her parents' testimony that... Written evidence, the judge clarifies. A heavy silence falls. Lena shifts uncomfortably in her seat. The judge turns to her. Miss Whitaker, Lena, do you personally believe your sister should be responsible for your mortgage payments? Lena opens her mouth, closes it, then stares at the floor. Judge Harmon removes his glasses. I'll hear final statements, then make my ruling. As Ivy begins our closing statement, I watch my family across the room, strangers wearing familiar faces, united only in their belief that my financial independence belonged to them. For the first time, I feel not just anger or hurt, but pity. The courthouse hallway stretches before me like a gauntlet. My parents and Lena cluster at the far end, their heads bent together in urgent conversation. Dad's forced smile appears when he spots me approaching with Ivy at my side. Mom nervously glances at Lena, who clutches her purse with white knuckles. Elena. Dad steps forward, blocking my path to the courtroom doors. We've been talking, and there's a simple solution here. I raise an eyebrow but say nothing. The marble floor beneath my feet feels solid, grounding me in this moment. 3 weeks of sleepless nights have led to this day, and now they want a simple solution? We'll drop the lawsuit. Mom says, her voice honeyed with false reasonableness. All we're asking is a small monthly contribution toward Lena's mortgage. Something fair, something you can afford. Lena nods eagerly. Even $1,000 a month would help. That's nothing for someone in your position. $12,000 a year. Nothing. The audacity nearly steals my breath. The boys ask about you every day, Lena adds, her voice dropping to a whisper. They miss their aunt. The blow lands exactly as intended. A sharp pain blooms beneath my ribs. I haven't seen my nephews in weeks. Not since this lawsuit transformed me from family member to financial target. Think about it, Dad says, patting my shoulder. This could all go away, we could be a family again. His words hang between us, the unspoken threat clear as crystal. Comply or never see your nephews again. Ivy shifts beside me, a slight movement that reminds me I'm not alone. The manila folder in my hand suddenly feels heavier, packed with 12 years of evidence. The judge is ready for us, says the court clerk, pushing open the heavy wooden doors. Inside the courtroom, time moves differently. Our footsteps echo against polished floors as we take our places on opposite sides. The judge, a woman with silver hair and piercing eyes, reviews the file before her with meticulous attention. Before we proceed, I say when given the opportunity to speak, I'd like to present additional evidence. My hands no longer tremble as I open the folder. 12 years of financial history spread before the court. Every transfer, every loan, every emergency that became my responsibility. Since I was 19, I begin, my voice steadier than I feel. I've contributed over $42,000 to my family's expenses. I place bank statements on the evidence table. When Dad's pension came up short, I covered the property taxes. Another document joins the pile. When Lena's car broke down, I paid for repairs. More evidence. When my parents wanted to remodel their kitchen, I funded half the cost. The courtroom remains silent as I methodically lay out my financial history with my family. Email after email begging for just a little help with timestamps showing their increasing frequency. The mortgage they want me to assume would cost me nearly $200,000 over the loan term. I say, looking directly at my sister, I'm not responsible for Lena's mortgage any more than you're responsible for mine. My mother huffs, a sound I recognize from childhood scoldings. We raised you, she interjects. We gave you everything. The judge raises her hand, silencing further commentary. For nearly 20 minutes, she reviews the documents I've provided, occasionally making notes. When she finally speaks, her voice fills the courtroom with crisp authority. I've reviewed the claims brought by the Whitaker family against their daughter Elena. She taps the stack of papers. The plaintiffs assert they are owed compensation for raising their child, specifically a sum of $295,000. She removes her glasses, looking directly at my parents. Let me address this claim unequivocally. Raising a child does not entitle parents to financial compensation. My mother gasps audibly. Dad's face flushes crimson. Furthermore, the judge continues, the evidence presented today demonstrates that Miss Whitaker has provided substantial financial support to her family over many years. She flips through my documentation. By my calculation, she has contributed more financially to this family than she has received. The judge's gaze travels between my parents and sister. This court cannot compel an adult child to assume financial responsibility for siblings or parents, except in very specific circumstances, none of which apply here. She closes the file with finality. The plaintiff's claim is dismissed with prejudice. The defendant is entitled to recover court costs. The gavel strikes with a sharp crack that echoes through the chamber. Mom collapses back in her chair while Dad stares straight ahead, jaw clenched. As we file out of the courtroom, Lena bumps my shoulder roughly. Hope you're happy, she hisses. Mom and Dad will probably lose their house now. I stop walking. Their house is paid for. They emptied their retirement for your down payment, not their mortgage. Her silence tells me everything. Outside, autumn sunshine warms my face. Ivy touches my elbow. You okay? I will be, I say, surprised to discover it's true. My phone buzzes in my purse. I fish it out, expecting another family member's recrimination. Instead, it's an email from my realtor. Congratulations. Your offer on the Maple Street property has been accepted. A small 2-bedroom home of my own. No family strings attached. Just freedom. Purchased with my own savings and protected by my own courage. I read the email twice, letting the reality settle into my bones. The battle is over, but what comes next remains unwritten. Rumors already circulate that Lena may move back with our parents, renting out the house to cover the mortgage. I wonder if I'll ever regain my relationship with my nephews. But for now, standing in the sunlight with my future securely in my own hands, I allow myself to feel something I haven't experienced in years. Peace. A year later, the morning sun warms my shoulders as I kneel in the soft earth of my garden, pressing basil seedlings into the soil. Milo, my rescue terrier, circles the raised beds, nose twitching at unfamiliar scents. His paws leave tiny prints alongside my own larger impressions, evidence of life taking shape in this place that belongs entirely to me. What do you think, buddy? Rosemary next? I hold up the small pot, and Milo tilts his head, tail wagging. I'll take that as a yes. 3 months in this modest 2-bedroom home, and already it feels more mine than any place I've lived. Inside, framed documents hang in my office mortgage approval papers, displayed not as a burden, but as proof of promises I kept to myself. Years of saving, of saying yes to overtime and no to luxuries, culminating in these walls that ask nothing of me but payment I willingly give. The phone buzzes in my pocket. I wipe soil from my hands and check the screen. Mother. I breathe deeply before reading her message. Lena needs a place to stay for a few months. The boys are struggling. She'll call you tomorrow to arrange moving in. Not a request. An expectation draped in the thinnest veil of notification. Last year, these words would have sent me scrambling to prepare the spare bedroom, to calculate how many extra groceries I'd need, to rearrange my work schedule. Now I sit back on my heels and feel nothing but clarity. My response comes easily. I will not be hosting Lena or the boys. Any further contact of this nature will be reported as harassment. I press send, then block her number. Milo nudges my leg, sensing the shift in my posture. I scratch behind his ears. Some boundaries need more than words, buddy. Later that evening, warm conversation fills my living room as friends raise glasses in celebration. No elaborate decorations or expensive champagne, just genuine people who stood beside me when standing alone felt impossible. To Elena, Ivy says, lifting her wine glass. The setting sun through the windows catches the amber liquid, casting prism lights across her face. Who taught us all about building the life you choose, not the one others demand? Thomas, the bank manager who helped secure my accounts during the lawsuit, raises his glass. And to financial freedom, which isn't just about money. The faces around me belong to people who expect nothing from me but my company. The weight of that realization still surprises me how light it feels to be loved without conditions. Next weekend, I'll lead my first financial literacy workshop at the community center. Women leaving difficult relationships, rebuilding after loss, starting over stories not unlike my own. My second bedroom, once kept empty just in case family needed it, now holds an easel and canvases for the painting classes I've wanted to take for years. Before my guests leave, I find myself pausing at the hallway table where a single family photo sits. My parents, Lena, the boys, and me at my nephew's birthday 2 years ago. I pick it up, studying our smiles frozen in time. Keeping it? Ivy asks quietly at my shoulder. No, I say, opening the drawer and placing it inside, but not throwing it away either. As the drawer closes with a soft click, I wonder if some relationships are meant to evolve into something completely different than what they started as. Should I keep the door open a crack, or was the healthiest choice to close it completely? Whatever the answer, for the first time, the choice belongs entirely to me.